Hello, everyone. We having a little bit of technical difficulty. Wanted to go ahead and let you know what was taking place. Linus may need to drop off and reconnect here in just a moment. The main issue has been that for one reason or another, and this sometimes happens with software, there's a little square. We can get his audio, but then there's this little square that shows up in the middle of the screen, and it kind of obscures things. And we really wanted to try and get rid of that, but everything we've tried so far to get it to the point where that's not showing up anymore, all of a sudden we can't get the audio. So apologies, we did a run of this earlier. We knew about the square problem, trying to find solutions before we were going to get started, but it didn't quite work out. So while we're waiting for him to log back on, and again, please bear with us with the idea that there'll probably be a little square showing up that might block a few things. We'll try to avoid that as much as possible. Wanted to welcome you to the episode. Thank you all so much for attending. I apologize also for the last minute notification on this. It gets kind of crazy in the summertime. As a matter of fact, we are scheduled for another session July 13th, but we may push that a little bit. And then after that, we don't have anything scheduled until September, which may not be a terrible thing because, of course, everybody's traveling and there's lots going on, and our European colleagues get an extended break, and so it may not be the best time to continue with the series during the summer. But very exciting. Extremely glad that we could get Linus on the series in IPScreener. I've known Linus for a very, very long time. And IPScreener has been around for quite some time as well. It's a great tool. Very excited that you're going to get a chance to see more of it today here in just a moment. And also very excited, it says episode 13, but we've done 2 other kind of special events and had a couple of people on more than once. And so there's really probably been closer to 15 or 16 webinars in total, spanning more than a year at this point, because it was about this time last year. I think maybe July will be our 1-year anniversary of doing these webinars. And so I can't thank everybody enough for your support and for coming out and listening to these and working with the recordings. And it's just been really, really tremendous having this community show up so often and in such great numbers for what we're trying to accomplish here with the webinar series. And tell you what, while we're waiting for Linus to log back in, and let me check my attendees box. Yeah, he's still logging back on. If anybody has any questions, just sort of in general, you thought, or something you'd like to talk about for a moment, please feel free to go ahead and use the control panel and put that question into the box right now, and I'll go ahead and talk about that a little bit. I'm also really excited for the next episode in the series. The folks from Relativity are going to join us again, but they're going to be talking about something. They're not hardly going to talk about the product at all. They're actually going to talk about the idea of, well, how do you make the results from a machine learning based exercise, whether it's retrieval or whatever else that you might be doing with their tool, how do you document it? How do you show people that, well, this is what we did? Again, trying to take some of the transparency, add more transparency, take the black boxness out of this. And this all came from a conversation that took place during the most recent PIUG meeting, where there was some real concern about, well, with traditional searching tools, I can go ahead and show what I did. I've got the Boolean logic, I've got the class codes, I've got all these different things that I can demonstrate to whomever might be interested. This is what I did. And to an extent, machine learning doesn't necessarily provide that, because it's a neural network or it's a support vector machine. There's not a lot of documentation. And so in that session, we're going to try and work through some of that and have a conversation about how that documentation can take place. Now I see that I've got Linus back, but we don't have, his camera hasn't been turned on yet. So hopefully here, I'm going to go ahead and make him the presenter just to kind of cue us up for when he shows up on the screen here in just a moment. And again, thank you everybody for your patience in getting started today. We've been pretty lucky, all things considered, with all the previous ones that we've done up to this point, and we really haven't had all that much in the way of technical issues. You know, we were probably due for for one where it wasn't you know, quite so smooth straight off the bat. And so we're going to give him a few more minutes just to see if we can get this straightened out. And again, you know, thank you for your patience. And please, you know, if you have some questions about the series in general, you have some suggestions, some things that you know, you'd like to hear more about. I mean, I'll ask a question. I think, I don't know. I mean, I'll ask this question. I haven't really put as much time into posting the the daily articles. So cumulatively over the last, now at this point, about 18 months, there are essentially more than 300 articles or web pages, various media associated with machine learning and patents. And I was in a pattern of doing one every day, and then I did one every weekday, and then I was doing sort of one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And lately, with all the other things that have been going on, I haven't been posting quite so frequently. So if you could put into the question area, what are your thoughts about the newsletter and about the and those articles? I mean, when you get the newsletter, is it something that you look at? Is it something that you find some value in, and you occasionally click on them? You know, just let me, you know, if you could quickly drop something into the question portion of the control panel, and let me know what you think of the newsletter and the postings on the blog. I wonder if this is actually somewhere, if I can do a, yeah, this would have been a good thing to do a poll for if I had known I was going to do this ahead of time, but apparently I can't do impromptu polls. Having a look over here to see if, let's see now, let's see if I can do a quick poll. All right, we got a couple, okay. Okay, well, thank you. See, now some of the comments are coming in. I appreciate that. This first one is a word of congratulations. There was a meeting in Europe, and the group emphasized the quality and contents of ML4Patents. And thank you. I can't thank you enough. I mean, I really appreciate it. It's great to be able to support the community like this. And we have Linus back. Linus, can we hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Oh, yes.
Good. Good. Well, finally. Back online.
Yes. All right. Well, that's great. I managed to do, in the U.S. we have an expression. I was soft shoeing, so I was tap dancing, trying to you know, that we've got this. There's, you know, during a lot of TV shows, you'll see somebody say, "You got to keep going. They're not ready yet. Yeah. They're not ready yet." And so you keep improvising, and you're like, well, okay, what can we talk about while everybody's waiting? Yeah. But thankfully, you're back, and so I've introduced you, and said a lot of great things, and a lot of nice things about the tool. But we're looking to you to tell us more about it in detail and show us how it works. So I'm going to turn this over to you, Linus.
Brilliant. So there will probably be a small square in the middle of the viewer here, but that's better to have a square and sound than a no sound and a no square. So I probably need an AI to assist my computer, or maybe the AI took over. I didn't want to be presented or something. We will see how that goes. So thanks very much for joining in. It's great to be here, and thanks Tony for organizing this. It's a really great asset to assemble different users and partners and providers within the AI field, and using that to sort of introduce this possibility into the IP landscape. That is very well done. So thank you for organizing this. That's my sort of first. It's great to be here. So now a little bit late, but I would like to first do a sort of general presentation, a little bit on the thoughts on AI and a little bit on where we have done on the sort of threats and possibilities in the platform. And then I'm going to do a run through of how our platform looks like. And feel free to ask any questions during the presentation or during the demo as well, of course. And I'll be happy to take those. And as Tony already presented me, so my career is about searching IP information, first at the Patent Office in Sweden, and then as a consultant. And now I'm trying to actually use AI to make my burden a little bit easier to do the searching. And so that's my next step to see. But it's always about using new ways and methodologies and tools to make the assessment of information easier. That's sort of what my vision is and what I like to explore. Then I will start to review this short presentation, and you have to keep my track there, Tony. If I'm out of time, tell me. So let's start a little bit on best practice on AI tools and some ethical dilemmas we have been considering also during our research and our follow-up with both users and other actors in the field. So first of all, IPScreener explores AI to boost innovation, and we have been part of a European funded project called Eurostars, and the Swedish association called Vinnova, which is a national innovation agency, which has supported our thought of how could we may possibly use AI as a way of improving and facilitating the extraction of knowledge hidden in patents. So as both on providing decision support and assisted reading, classification, and of course searching. This research was also done together in association with the Technical University of Vienna. So the AI in short, the implicit processing of data. Well, we all know about this black box. You put something in and then you get something out. And it's maybe somewhat difficult to explain exactly what is done in its black box, even though there's a lot of discussions and review on how you can have deep learning and you can have machine learning and you can have different vector analysis, keyword analysis, and so on, what's actually happening in there. And it's all about data. But how do you know that data is actually giving us the result we want? So this is kind of an interesting picture I was given by a friend. So is this your machine learning system? Yeah, you pour data into it and yes, can you go some algorithm and going to get some nice results. But if the answers are wrong, well, then you just add some more data. And I think that is the essence of these new technologies. Data is the new oil, but how do you make sure you are using the right oil for this kind of engine? And the oil, the data is then used to train the system in different ways. So you have this kind of cycle, you have training data, you train the system, and then you have test data to see how well it works. And you have this iteration. This can be done either at the starting point and you have it more static, or you can have it completely dynamic, so it learns all the time. We're coming back to that later, those different approaches and how often you should train and how you should do it. But basically, it's just feeding it with data, evaluating that it works, and keeping this cycle running. So there are three themes I would like to address here, which could be of interest to the audience, as I have the time to speak here a little bit, and that's about the overfitting paradox, the syndrome of biasing, and intelligence leakage. And that's sort of the three themes I'm going to talk a little bit about. And so the first is then about the training data about the overfitting paradox. And we all know that from even when we had the OCR systems, you train them on recognizing characters in the text, and in the beginning they really started to learn a lot. but at a certain point it actually degraded and became worse. So you have an R and an N, or is it an M, and R and N, or is it an M, and in the end the system doesn't really know what it should think, and it actually became quite drastically worse in this training scenario. So data is good, but the question we should always ask ourselves here is, when do we stop the training on the data? Because there is always an optimum in any platform. If you train it too much, it's going to be overfitted. And so underfit, then you don't have enough data, and it's going to really not be able to take the right decision. Then you have the perfect zone where you have an optimum, and then finally you start to overfit because you have too much data and too many decisions resembling to the same outcome. And so this is one big challenge, actually. So if you have a discussion, yeah, we're training, we use all data and we train forever. That's not really a good answer. So if you could, that's one of the questions you should ask. When do you stop train? When should I stop train? And how should we make the best out of it? And in our so platform, we are using measurements in the backend to see when it starts to degrade performance, and then it gives alerts. So that's one way. Keeping continuous measurements on a baseline in the backend, it's one of the ways to see this, when it's actually starting to not perform as well, on where it's going to be in certain domains also. So that's the way you can use it. The overfitting paradox is also about when you have more dynamic learning in the platform, so it trains on the behavior of users looking at data. And then you may find this document, and some users say it's very good for this topic that is used as an input, and other users say it's very bad. That is in extreme, and then you have people in the middle saying it's quite okay. Coming back to this OCR recognition, in the end, any computer that gets to too many bigs here is going to start having problems to predict how relevant is this document, because one person says it's very bad, one says very good, and another couple says it's kind of okay. So then we have to tailor it towards the right domain. It might also be that the document is super relevant because from one perspective, but not relevant from another perspective. So in one document, you could have several topics being interesting or not interesting, but then you have to know, what did the user look at, and from what perspective did the user make that kind of evaluation. The syndrome biasing is also coming to the dynamic part. If you do your own evaluations in a topic, and that's good if you're staying on the same topic all the time. So let's say I'm looking for a book of searching on patents, and I'm keep on doing a lot of iterations on that, and I find this really good book, and I buy it, and well, now I read it, so I need to do some sporting, and then I switch topic, and switching topics, I search for jogging shoes. Then the system thinks, yeah, but Linus is not interested in jogging, he is interested in reading, so I'm going to get smart, I'm going to help him out. And this is also a problem with when you have these AI learning platforms, that you need to how will they detect that you have switched topic, or do you have to tell them? How do you handle this in a practical way? So in our platform, we took the step to actually do the training within a case, but not between cases. So if you do one case and you do a lot of activities in there, it's going to training on what you're doing there, but it's not going to, when it comes to the next case, it's going to restart from scratch again, or at the sort of an optimum level, which is a good effort, and then it sort of starts adapting to your behavior, but only within that case. So that's one way to using it. There's probably other approaches as well. Yeah, I'm going to show this video. Probably some of you have already seen it before, because I've shown it a couple of times, but I think it's so good, so it could be all viewed several times. Yeah.
Let me ask you a quick question before you show the video.
Sure.
Overfitting. So when you were talking about overfitting, is there more of a likelihood of false positives or false negatives with the overfitting issue, or is it could be either one? But when overfitting starts to take place, do you see a predominance or more of one versus the other? What's been your experience?
We have seen more that it actually false positives coming up, pushing up, because the documents that are maybe relevant from another perspective are pushed up in the relevancy degree. But it could be either way, but we have seen most of that from our analysis so far. Where you're able to identify the threshold early on, then you can keep up the sort of the best performance. But I think that also depends about how much you overfit it and with what data. But that's a good question. That could be a topic for research.
It could be equally both, but it also seems to make sense that, yeah, more stuff would start coming through. More data means more opportunities for more examples, and therefore you're going to start loosening up a little bit, and more stuff is going to come through. So that's good to hear. So thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, video time.
Yeah, video time. So this is a nice example of what can happen when you're sort of retraining and you do a topic shift. I hope how the sound works. No, it didn't. So sorry. Maybe this was I should test that one, but let's see if it works on that one instead. Should be working within the presentation, but didn't. So I hope the sound was okay.
Yeah, there was no sound, but there were subtitles.
The subtitles, yeah, that was working. So
it was very clear. This poor person.
Yeah. Seriously,
yeah,
so it's actually you're training for one data set and you switch topic and it's not going to stand that. And you can say, yeah, I can always retrain. But when you retrain, then you have to retrain. And that's sort of the essence of this. If you retrain all the time, it's not really useful because that takes an effort. So you want a system that actually trains more or less automatically or adapt to your next situation without having to do with training. That's will be sort of the perfect situation. Now you have to do assumptions when you try and to make it happen. But so that is sort of the biasing of data. Then the third part is intelligence leakage, and that's quite been a little bit discussed, ethical AI and so on. So because when we have these sort of systems that listens to what you do and you're doing your activities and it actually records that, it can be used for different purposes, of course, for straightforward abuse, but also actually leaking of information that you have been doing. So take this simple example: you have this corporate and they're working together and they're baking this fantastic cake, training up the whole AI system in a certain specific domain. So it actually moves from a quite basic level to a quite advanced level. And then when the cake is ready and they're super happy, and suddenly this guy comes along, another sort of company signing up for a tool, and they just enjoy eating the cake. And that is sort of something that could be discussed. Is that okay? Is it a good thing? Yeah, maybe they're actually providing for the better good of this AI in this domain. But should it be? Do they actually own the training? Or should this little fellow be able to use it, or should they pay a fee to the first company? Or so these are things that should be considered when you are using platforms that are learning what you're doing. What happens to my learnings, right? So there are some sort of strategies or takeaways I would like to share here as well. So we talked about evaluation, coming back to devising and to see and overfitting. If I'm able to run my own score over and over again on a large scale, then and giving those numbers away, then I could see how that works. This is a typical baseline we are running. And then for a specific portfolio, then we know that they have, well, now we're basing it on the output from Patent Office reports, but then we can take the whole portfolio from that specific company, and we can run it again and run it again. And then we know on the large scale score what kind of recall would we have if we, how many of the relevant documents would be found if we look at the first top 10 documents found, or top 25 documents found, or 20, 50 and 100, which are the basic evaluation model. And then you can check. So if you have your own list, yeah, well, we're having this 2,000 or 3,907 patent applications, which we know there are known answers to. Please run it again. I want to have these scores every year to see how it performs or evolves. That could be one way to do it. So I think that is something you could ask quite easily if you're a large corporate and you have your portfolio. Then you can just place it and say, yes, please run it. I want to see the numbers again. So that's one way to see how the system performs. Is it actually overfitting, or is staying on target, or getting better? The other one is, of course, asking questions to the provider. It's always good to ask questions because you can learn more, and then you can also get better insights, and you can have a better dialogue. So one is actually, do I own my training data? If it's a dynamic model, and I know it's going to be using data on sort of a continuous way, then I can ask, okay, what happens to this training? Is it actually mine, or is it something that goes up to the cloud and it's going to be used by everyone? And how is my account updated? Is it that transparent when the model itself is updated? Is it when it's going from AI 1.1 to 2.0? Will that change? Will it change too much usage, or when anyway that happens? Because that could also be of interest, of course. If I'm doing training, I don't want training to be biased. And what are the impacts of changes on my performance? So what will other user activities have some impact on what I'm doing? And the quality scores guarantee. It comes it back to the previous slide. If I use and run the baseline, hey, run it on these portfolio documents I have and show me what comes out of it, then I know. But are the quality achieved guaranteed to stay? Because we have seen some reviews that actually, suddenly it gets worse, suddenly it gets better, but I don't know. I don't have the time to sit down and do manual checkpoints now and then, because the whole thing with this is I want it to be better all the time. And I do the assessment when I buy it, and then I just keep using it. But I have no clue whether it's getting better or not, or getting worse. And also what's the principle of the workflow when you're updating platform and so on. So these are simple, four basic questions I think is very good to ask when you're sort of looking into these platforms. So we could use it. Well, so from our point of view, we have looked very much into create something that is usable for also non-professionals. That's the mean you have to be an IP professional and know about everything about patents and reading them and so on. It's quite complicated. And why is this important? Well, we did a study. I mean, if you look at these statistics from the Patent Office, we see that about 50% of all applications are rejected, not because they are bad, but because they partly overlap existing ones. So it comes prior art in a patent that actually shows more or less the same thing, or even though the claiming scope could be very broad. And this study done by Ursula Anderson in 2018-19 on what is the cost of an actual idea going from ideation to patent application. And this is US numbers, but I think it's more on universal level. We can see that about 98.5% of the cost is taken before you do the evaluation or draft the procedure, or eventually if you get the answer at the patent office, then more or less 100% of the cost is taken. And you might be sitting there with a prototype which might be infringing something else, or not have as good potential as it could have. So here is where you should actually start reviewing patent documentation if it's possible. That was the whole intent. I mean, 80% of the knowledge is hidden here, but it's quite complicated for regular R&D people to explore at this point. So I think this is a beautiful opportunity to finally sort of move back to democratize access to IP information. And that's why I think it's so important to use it in that way. Another one is then by using the AI in the platform, even you could have different checkpoints and have automated support within the process. So either by doing analysis and creating workflow like this. This is an example of a client of ours that actually built this, use that as a daily work. So they have an automated analysis on an idea, and depending if something comes out which is very close, that will steer then what happens next. So if they find already by using the AI relevant information in the workflow, there's a stop and it goes back to R&D, and they have to iterate. And but if it's sort of nothing pops up, then you can let it go forward, and you can have a higher budget or more resources to do both the drafting and researching. But what happens is that you actually steer resources towards projects that have a better potential, rather than doing this ad hoc analysis on everything, where you know already beforehand that the 80% is going to be already known, but you would like to get rid of those quicker. So that's basically, and also you could use the system for classification. I'm going to show you about on that as well. Yeah, and finally, I think it's another way is you can actually disassemble a document into pieces, because the patent is not a book. You don't really want to read it from A to Z. But it's compiled of different parts, and some of those parts might be relevant. But so historically, it's just one document, and you start reviewing it and try to find a good page. But you find the document that has been sort of the prerequisite so far. But I think the next one is also relevant to identify the relevant parts of the document, and start to slice it into pieces, so you know color-wise. So this is the distribution of this text in view of an input, where red is very relevant and green is not so relevant, and yellow is quite relevant, and so on. And then maybe in the next also suggest interpretations. This is something we're looking in our current research to translate claim sort of this language into something more commonly understood, or creating abstracts and so on. Yeah, so the future, I think, for going back, if we're able then to use these tools to push exploration also to people which have not specific expertise, we can sort of lighten the burden for the analysts, and they can focus maybe less on searching and also on the strategy. That means that we can also use the resources better within the companies and in the organizations, which is so you can spend more time on evaluating and creating more value by the IP consultants, rather than do raw research, which could be then pushed earlier innovation chain, but also helping these people to assess knowledge within the ideation already. So not reinvent the wheel, not get dependent too early, and also get inspired by other solutions very early on, so it can take on to that to be faster. That was my very short review on sort of 3 topics. I think it's relevant to ask, and I hope that was interesting for the audience. And I'd be happy to take some questions when I switch to the demo window.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic. I have a question, but because of time, I'm going to hold off. What you said a few slides ago about the idea of shared models, that's not something that I hear our community talk a lot about. I want to give you plenty of time and respect the time of the audience. So go ahead and let's do the demo. But as we get closer to time, and you've had because I'm sure everybody here is also very interested in seeing this in practice. This is a great overview, lots of interesting questions to discuss, but let's make sure we don't shortcut, we don't take time away from seeing it actually done in practice. So let's do that, and then I'll come back to that question. And any other questions people have started to think about, please start putting them into the question portion of the control panel, and we'll queue those up.
Brilliant. No, that's be happy to take that. So I will try to speed up to be able to. I hope that people can stay 5 more extra minutes due to my struggle with my computer. So IPScreener is we have a sort of a bit more of a light touch to it. So by using AI, we turn everyone into a superhero that is able to assemble at least a little bit of the information from the IP, so you can use it more easily. And I'm going to sort of show a small example of how that could be used in practice, very roughly. So this is a case on a startup which we were meeting up with, and they didn't have any information at all. So they actually have created an additive for fodder for reducing the CO2 emission. And they had read a research paper on this, and they wanted to review the situation. So it's like, okay, let's take this, but they don't have so much data, so we use what you have to see what comes out of it. And they have described a little bit on their homepage how they do it, about this algae and how it works and so on. And we have done some screening on sort of cleaning up text. So let's see what comes out if we just take the whole homepage like this, which is really dirty, and we move into the platform. So this is what we have as what we call is a case view. So IPScreener, everything you do will be stored within a case. So if you do several searches and iterations and comments, they will be stored, and you can see a little bit on what happened in that case later on. So these are previous cases running the platform. You can see in some of those we found some really relevant prior art, in others we did only find some basic background. If there are any notes taken, we can see directly how many documents that were commented, and if there are any paragraphs marked and so on. We can talk more about those. So when I want to put something, is to create a new case, which is then the case we're going to do here. I start off like this, and now I have this funny box in the middle that hides a bit. But so now the only thing you need to put in is a text like this. So I paste it in, everything in like this, everything went in, and that's the input. I could also add a reference number or a title if I like to. If I don't want to, I can add that later. The title will then be automatically added as the first few words in the description, but I can always change that later on. If I'm more of a pro user, I could also use a patent number as input, then we'll use that document text to find additional prior art. Could be useful if you want to do a validity check or an opposition control for a specific patent. Good to know, or know that we do not really look at any citations or classifications on that specific document. We're only using the text within the document, and the AI tries to analyze that and use it as an input for digital fingerprint. So that's the possible use. Then if you want to enable what we call advanced search, but for regular IP professionals, this is a normal search. Then you have possibility to add specific keywords. If you want to limit the analysis to a subset that contains a certain strategy, maybe 1 or 2 words in a parenthesis and a Boolean algebra. So you have one word or the other. So it could be like this, for instance. Or you could have it limited to a certain time period, maybe more relevant for validity searches, or you can have it around a certain applicant or certain inventor, or if you already know a class code you like to work, like in the regular basic platforms. What will happen is that the system will then perform the analysis in view of parameters you have specified. But in this super easy example, we're going to use only what we found on this homepage, and that's our input. So let's hit the button and see how that goes. So the system will analyze the input if it would be in another language, specifically German, French, Japanese, Mandarin, and Swedish. Then it will be translated to English, and the screening is done in English. So the master collection is all in English, native English first in the document collections, and if there are translations, they are used as a backup. And now the analysis is ready, so it takes normally a couple of seconds, and I'm able to review it, and that's probably the starting point. So this could be also the starting point in an innovation workflow. For instance, if you are having this as a checkpoint between R&D and IP department, or if you are in R&D, you want to do your own assessment, you can get this directly into your platform. So let's then open the case and see what we have and found. And this is the case view. So I'm going to talk sort of describe it in more detail. So to the far left, we have still all the settings and all the steering controls for what you would like to have and so on. And then we have the input case. Here we see the case. And here we see the search parameters. I can always run several iterations by the search button down here. And I'm also able to make comments on the case and so on if I like to follow up later on. This could be done by me or by other persons. I can also talk about that a bit more. So this is sort of how you follow up on the case and your iterations. You could manually add on more text, you can change it, but you can also use other ways to influence how it works. Then we can move to the far right where we have all the controls for interaction. One good, nice first option is to review the statistics that are found, and these are trends or statistics based on the documents that were found relevant by the system analysis. So it's not like the first 5,000 documents, it's the documents that were above a certain threshold relevant to the case, and from those extracting interesting so information that could be maybe enlightening the case as such, or for this startup being understanding the technical field also. First of all, you could verify how well the AI works. That's the main basis. Now we use the really rough homepage as input. So let's see how that could work. So we have created a classifier. So the system classifies according to the CPC. And of course, even if you work with this, you don't remember all the classes by heart. But the system now suggests the A25K, A23K50 to be the number one. And if we hover over that, we can see that what it is, and it's actually fodder feeding stuffs especially adapted for particular animals. So apparently the platform the AI has perceived it to be what it actually be, so that's good. If this would be about you know, how to milk cows, or about how to build and make shoes out of cows or whatever, I don't know, then you know it's not working. So then you probably have to steer it another way, and you can do that directly within this graph if you find the relevant classification. But now this is not about this is instead about this area. I can go here and I can click on that plus number to tweak it in that direction, and then go in and search, and then I go hybrid. So I'm telling the system, no, I don't like number 1, I like number 5. Please tell me more about that is. So that's a way of helping users to very quickly actually use the classification system without having to be skilled within it, or also get an understanding how well the results seemingly should be. Then follow me also, you can see some trends on the activity. So based on the priority countries, where is the activity worldwide? US is always going to be quite predominant, but in this area it was a Swedish startup, but apparently they have competitors in Finland, and sort of, did you know about that? No, we didn't know about that. Maybe you should check that out. But also we see in Europe, we have UK being very strong, we have Germany, Belgium, in Japan, and Australia, New Zealand. So that's tells a bit about the market situation and how that tends to be. And also the trend, is this increasing or decreasing or stable? And of course, reducing CO2 is quite popular, so it should be increasing, which it also is, if you look at how many filings or relevant documents we have seen over the years, and also the distribution of the main players. And we can see, oh no, it's hidden about this little funny box here, but number one is DSM, and DSM is normally known for making nutrition additives for humans, but apparently they're also doing fodder additives. I didn't know that, and they didn't certainly know about that. So that was interesting to actually already here you enlarge the knowledge scope by seeing just from the trends within relevant documents that where they are, who are the main players, what they've been doing, and how does it relate to my area. So and also for manual, if you want to do manual assessments for searching, it could sort of help you. Okay, I want maybe to have a specific look into this area or this company when I do a sort of a manual top up.
Having work in animal feeds, I can certainly verify that yeah, at this high level, you know, this sort of exploratory, let's get a general idea, you know, that how this is doing based on a, you know, just a very small amount of text that's been provided. Absolutely. I mean, and if you look, you know, further, there's a specific A23K50 for ruminants, and then, you know, there's also A23K for the addition of algae or other sort of bacterial or fungal units, and so that I think was one of the early ones that came up as well. And then yeah, DSM actually has a huge business in this area.
That was kind of came as a surprise because no, that must be wrong. But you know, you always come unexpected when you do this kind of analysis, when you do screening within the panel data, it always comes up companies they didn't know about and you didn't expect to be there, but they are so huge, so they have these activities, but maybe not so familiar on the market because they're, you know, selling under different brands and a no label and so on. Yeah.
Okay, so we have about 8 minutes left, just to give you time before we stop. So please keep going.
Yeah, I'll keep going. So, and then we have we already see that some keywords are already highlighted in the text, so the AI helps out a little bit. You could, of course, may add those. You can have your default profile. If that would be the AI, we can also save it and have your favorite. If you're always more working in one domain, and you know, when you're doing additives and the algae, you can have that as a default, your own profile being run. So that is the most the starting point. The main course is, of course, the documents that comes out, and they are presented in what we call it tabs. We have two basic tabs which are always present, which are novelty screening and infringement. That means novelty is trying to assess documents with similar concepts. Then it can be more in the description, so it could be in the background or other solutions or different embodiments not really claimed. Of course, infringement screening then is looking for claiming scopes or documents with claiming scopes that covers or relates to the features revealed in the input text. And of course, now this was a home page as an input, so that could be quite rough. So if you really want to have a nice freedom to operate screening, it's better to use a more claim-like language. But still here we see that there are some relevant sort of documents are interesting. And let's review them from a novelty. See if I can go back. Yeah, so then we can review them one by one. And for each document, we show the abstract, the claim, and the passage. The passage is the most relevant part of within the document considered by the AI to be specifically highlighted. And going through it, you can then highlight them and categorize them for further follow-up, but also for teaching the system to perform the next search better. So in basically now I could say this the first one, it's background, it's maybe not super relevant. But it's the same area. But actually, this was quite interesting for this startup because they are adding the asparagus algae to the fodder, but for the purpose of increasing productivity. So did you know about that? No, we didn't really know about that. So okay, then you have a USP. But not only is it reducing CO2, it also actually increases productivity. So it's an interesting document anyway. So you can then, and then I'm teaching this as background. If I now would do a new search, this will be considered as quite relevant, and it's somehow inflicting what I'm doing in the next round. And then I can also have auto stepping. So if I click on background, it will then automatically go to the next document. I don't really have to. So here, so it actually steps automatically to the next document. I don't have to click. And maybe number 2 is quite interesting, because here we can see that even the title says method for reducing total gas production in ruminant animals. So that's more or less spot on, right? And then I might want to categorize this as as this is very similar, so it's close. Now, if I run a new search here, this document will be taken into specific consideration while doing a new round. So I don't really have to add keywords. I rather select documents I like. I don't like a little bit of the Facebook style, and that will be used for the processing. I could also, if I really like this document, find more, and then the system will look into this document more specifically and use only this document as a way of performing the next iteration. Each search are stored up here. Now we will have one search, but if I had done 10 different, they all going to be stored along with the documents found. So I don't have to rerun any strategy later on. Everything I've been doing will be saved in the platform. So let's say this number 2, I would like to have that in more in details, and I can move into full text, and then we see that the AI move zooms into the area of interest. The basic view is showing the description to the left and the claim to the right, but rather than starting up here as it would normally do, it actually starts down where it matters. Oh, sorry. Now I'm completely out of the blue here. So it actually has the right. This is a bad document. Let's find. Yeah. So it actually starts within where the passage is, which is here. So in this specific document, I might be I see this as spot on. This is actually what they're doing. It's quite interesting for them. I have the possibility to add my own comments as well. So yes, maybe this part was something I would like to highlight. I can make then read more comment. This was very stupid and quick, but then I will see that specifically there will be a small marker here, a sticky note, and I can do similarly. Maybe I'm doing another one up here, and that will be saved. And you can see that I have a no sticky marker. And these are then, and if I now run a new query in this on this document, of course the AI will look into the document as being very relevant, but have a specific analysis on these passages I rank. So once again, I don't really have to add keywords. What I'm marking with my pen is going to be analyzed in detail and used for the next round. But I'm also able to interact and collaborate with other users on these results. So now I have found this document number 2, which was super relevant, and I wanted to send it to myself or to another colleague here. So I put myself in, like, please read this, and I send it. And then there will be an email sent. That person will get an email with a login link. That do not have to be a user in the platform, and so on. And I have then invoked an access. And I can see here now I shared this case with one person, and I can also later on then check the activity of the person. Now Linus has still not activated the account, but if that I will do and I review documents, that will be logged here. Yeah, Linus logged on. He read document 2. He made 2 comments. And then, as we will have 1 minute left, the final thing is that everything we'll be doing here, if I run the several searches and or iterations and comments, and I had discussions with colleagues or external counsel or from the IP management team, I'm able then to present reports on the fly. We have tailored ones, we have also pre-formatted ones. So could be one popular is sort of a mini report, which is showing what I have been doing in a sort of condensed way. So you can use this for maybe a short review meeting with a working group, maybe sending people from R&D and IP, or only within the working within a project and so on. Let's see if I'm able to.
So while we're waiting for that report to generate, I want to say thank you. We're at 1 o'clock, and the majority, far more than the majority, have stuck around. Thank you, everybody, for your patience at the beginning. Keep in mind there are handouts. Please grab the handouts before we log off. There's also a survey. For those of you who've joined us before, the survey is very short, and the most important question is the first one. Linus and his team would love to hear from you if you're interested in getting more details or seeing more about the system. You saw that you can try it for free on the homepage. But if you want to get more involved, hear more about it, learn a bit more about how to customize it for your application, I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. Please take just a few moments to fill out the survey. And with that, do you have any closing thoughts, Linus? I think we need to wrap this up. We're at the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think I'm up. Now, seemingly, this is not showing because the demo level hit me, but it's a nice report. But if anyone wants to try it out and see it more detail, we're happy to reach out. And also, if you have any questions on the presentation and thoughts, I would be happy to take those too. I don't know if there was something on the chat window so far, or if it was something that I can take later. Please reach out.
Yeah, on the survey, there's opportunities to write additional questions. So I know we're kind of closing things down without many more questions, but please capture those in the survey, and of course, Linus and his team will be happy to get back to you. With that, thank you again. Really, really appreciate everybody joining us today and your patience. And Linus, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. It was great to be on board, and good to be here as well. Yeah, even though late, but it should work. After 2 years of pandemic, it shouldn't happen, but it still does.
Well, that's okay. I think it was a great session, and we certainly got through and covered a lot of really interesting things. So, all right. So have a great rest of your day, evening, everybody around the world, and we'll see you for episode 14. Take care now.
Thank you. Stay safe.